My friend is out of town and she wanted me to house sit her plants, and so I'm house sitting the plants and then also taking care of my friend's dog as well. And this is probably going to be my first video where I don't have to edit out so much of the background noise because it's so quiet here. I literally got here yesterday and I'm going to be here for about like 7 more days. About 3 years ago, it was like 3.5 years ago, there was a fire in Malibu. And part of the area that it burned through was one of my favorite places to hike. And it was like this beautiful place that was covered in sage and just like the most intricate nature, like trees and forest and magical, and it burned. And I remember when I went to the forest after the fire, I was so sad. Like everything was completely charred and black and dead and burned. And I went there, and then I ended up going there again, and it was raining and the mud was just running because everything had burned and nothing was holding the soil together anymore. And I was so in awe of how such a magical, beautiful thing could be gone in an instant, just be completely gone, and as if it never existed. And I didn't go back to the park for maybe a few months because it was just so upsetting, and there wasn't really a point of going there unless I wanted to look at something that was a remnant of what I once knew. And then all of a sudden it was like March. A little bit after that, I went out to Malibu and I went to the place that I loved so much. And it was as though the entire Malibu had come to life in a new way. It was completely covered in wildflowers. It was like the hills when you're driving. So if you've never been to California, if you've never been to LA, when you drive up the PCH, the ocean's on your left if you're driving up, and then on the right, there's these like mountains the whole way up, like houses and mountains and ocean. And the mountains were completely covered in wildflowers. Like they're this specific type of flower called, I think they're called a mustard flower. They're literally mustard and they're yellow. And so the hills were just completely covered in yellow and green in a way that I had never seen. And I think in a way that most people had never seen. And I hadn't been in LA for that long, but I knew it was something that was pretty rare. I went back to the park and it was beautiful in a way I'd never experienced it before. It was like so green. It was like this very rich green. Before it was green like the sage California green that's a little bit muted. But now it was this vibrant like life green. It was covered in wildflowers, covered in mustard flowers and these beautiful like purple flowers. I don't know what type they are. And there were so many caterpillars and butterflies. It was insane. It was like I couldn't even walk on the ground without like stepping on caterpillars. Like the ground was covered in caterpillars. And I'm not even exaggerating. If I can find videos from that time, I will put it right here. But wow, like the plants were covered in caterpillars. It was insane. And so for what felt like an eternity, I don't remember how long it was. Maybe it was at least like 2 months. Everything was just covered in flowers and butterflies. And it was in a way that I'd never experienced nature here before. And so I still go to that park, and there are still the remains of the trees that were burned, and they just stand there and they're charred and black still, even after being rained on for 3 years. And some of them are growing things out of them. Some of them came back to life a little bit or have things growing on them. And around them is like this new ecosystem emerging from the ash. And it's such an interesting thing about California is that, and I don't know that much about this particular history, but I've heard that California being such a dry place, it's very healthy for the environment to burn. When it burns regularly, it doesn't have these massive fires. They're just like little brush fires. And so the Native Americans who used to live here used to actually like burn the land because it's good for the soil here. And it also prevents massive fires. Now in our modern society, we don't burn the land. And so it turns into these massive fires. But I think it's such an interesting thing and such an interesting reflection that from the ash is a new world that is birthed, a new ecosystem. And it's almost as if the land here doesn't thrive without that burning.
And I think that says so much about us as humans. Without the burning of the old, the new cannot emerge. Without the spaciousness that is born from the emptiness of what once was, there would be no room for a new world of possibilities.
And I feel that so deeply. I'm in Malibu right now, staying at my friend's house for a week, watching her plants and watching my other friend's dog. And just like, I'm such a homebody, and all of a sudden I just enter into someone else's home and someone else's life. And it's so interesting, and I'm processing it, and it's fun. And the ocean's right there. It's really beautiful. I'm just thinking about, lately I've been feeling the accumulated stress and the accumulated efforts of the past year of me building my business and working really, really, really hard. And it's been awesome. And there's this lack of spaciousness that I feel. And the thing about spaciousness is, much like the fires in California, is that without the spaciousness, there is no creation. Like, without the empty space, there is no inspiration for something to be created from. I think in our internet world, there's so much emphasis and pressure on creating, and it moves so fast, so it feels like you have to do that. And so this emphasis on doing has become such a huge part of our lives, in our society, in our internet world, in Los Angeles. And when I am only doing, I feel empty. I feel dry. I feel depleted. And I think I wasn't even noticing that I was getting to that point. I knew I needed more spaciousness in my life, because I was, and up until very recently, like 2 days ago, I would work all day. There wasn't enough space for me to just do nothing. And I find that when I'm bored, that's when the inspiration starts to flow. And so I had that awareness that I needed more spaciousness, more boredom, more doing nothing in my life. And kind of all of these puzzle pieces fell together in a way that I didn't understand, because I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed. And all of a sudden, my friend needed me to watch her house. Other friend needed me to watch her dog. The pieces fell together without me even trying, because it was so needed. And so basically yesterday, on Sunday, I arrived and got to do nothing for the first time in a really long time, and got to do nothing in a place where it's silent, like silent. And it's dark outside at night here, which if you live in a city, you'll know that light pollution makes the sky never dark ever. It's just like this purple color. And in Malibu, we don't really have that. So it's dark here. I'm like, and I'm adjusting to it. Being out here, it's definitely, there are parts of myself that are learning to unwind after having so much time having this pressure on me. And yet I'm so intrigued by the spaciousness that it is always there. And rather than focusing on creating so much, I want to focus on that spaciousness, because when the spaciousness is acknowledged and is honored, the creation is effortless. I'm so inspired when I'm bored. I'm so inspired when I'm doing nothing. I'm so inspired when I have time to read. What I do have figured out is that I love the way that the plants are swaying in the breeze right now, and how they just move. And there's no point. They're just moving. There's no purpose behind it. And yet it's the most freeing and beautiful thing in the whole world, is the fact that nature just exists. It just is. And the beauty of it is a side effect of it existing. It's not the focus of it existing. It just exists, and the beauty is born from that. I think that's why on my channel, I put such a focus on the small moments and the simple things and the little moments, because I'm still learning how to do that. And that is the most important thing to me, because it's my medicine. It's what makes me feel good. And those in-between times, the spaces, the pauses, the breath, they're so important. They are so important. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. I hope that I keep looking this way, because I'm looking at the plants. They are so beautiful. Like, literally, there's the plants and then there's the ocean. It's crazy. Definitely makes me dream bigger and be like, I kind of want to live in a place that's quiet. It sounds really nice. Have like a home so that I can sing. I do still sing at my apartment. I sing a lot. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you're doing well and taking care of yourself. And I hope that in every aspect of your life, you're allowing the spaciousness to be the thing that the inspiration is born from. There's no need to force something that already exists. So take a moment to yourself to just let yourself breathe Just let yourself breathe. Take the load off of your shoulders for just a moment. Life is so much more full than we allow it to be. So much more full of love, excitement, and spaciousness. So I just hope that you're able to find that within yourself, as I'm currently learning how to find that every day in so many different ways. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day today.